Okay, good evening colleagues and welcome to the Kew Town Council Planning Committee meeting for October. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Councillor Messing.
Item 2, does anybody have any declarations of members' interest to the...
You've got, sorry, a query.
Yeah, have we heard from Councillor Strange Francis?
Oh, I apologise, yes, of course, yeah. Dennis, Councillor Strange Francis as well.
Thank you for that. Does anybody have any declaration of members' interest as the agenda as it is written? Thank you. Molly?
Thank you. As a Cheshire East councillor, on item 8.1, which is for us to respond to the consultation on Cheshire East parking charges. Obviously, as a Cheshire East councillor, I have been part of the working groups that, well, not official working groups, but I've been part of meetings where ideas have been put forward that have gone into that consultation. So I don't think it would be appropriate for me.
Okay.
I could respond as an individual separate from this meeting.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
All right, is it? Yeah.
Is that a pecuniary interest?
That would be a pecuniary interest and take no part in the discussion.
Okay, item 3 then. The minutes for the last meeting, for those that were present, can you agree that they are a true record? Okay, second. Okay.
All in favour, Chair? All in favour? Yeah.
I will now sign those minutes. Right, if the meeting will allow, as we have two guest speakers tonight, or 2 applications that the colleagues are going to speak on, can you allow me to move 8.3 and 8.4 to the next items, please? Is that okay, colleagues?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll take after the public participation. Have we got any letters or anybody sent to us?
None, Chair.
Right, okay. So we'll take 8.3 then, which is a consultation presentation related to the proposed development at 332 West Street. Can I give you a time spell of about 15 minutes? Because clearly we've got another colleagues, I think those 2 there, and then we've got an agenda a yard long. So if you could...
I shall keep it brief, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on then.
Okay. Firstly, Chair, thank you very much, councillors, for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Jonathan Orton. I'm a planning director at a consultancy in Bristol called Origin 3. It's a town planning and architectural practice. I'm also the owner of the site at West Street that we would like to talk to you about this evening. We have this afternoon carried out a public consultation event at St Barnabas Church Hall on the emerging proposals that we've prepared, which was attended. We mail-shot about 50 local residents, and we had probably 8 or 10 residents through the door this afternoon, where we had a display with the proposals up, and we were there to answer any questions. Moving on, just let me get this, make sure I've got the right one. There we go. Is everyone familiar with that location on West Street there, next to St Barnabas Church Hall? Oh, that's good then. That saves us some trouble. The site measures about 0.3 of an acre, and you'll probably be familiar with some of the history on the site and the various buildings and various sort of land uses which have been on there over the years. As I say, we started about 12 months ago to engage with some local stakeholders to put together the necessary technical assessments on the site to support a planning application. which we're close to finalising at the moment. We're looking to maybe submit, I think, towards the end of October, possibly early November. But the site is, excuse me, there you go. That's the old scout hut that was on the building, that was on the site, demolished, I think, around about 2012. That's the cleared site as it looks today, albeit admittedly it's a bit more overgrown, having seen it today, than in the summer when the work was done. So we've just agreed another round of site clearance with the vicar and the clerk of the church there as well, so that's going to get tidied up a little bit more. As I say, it's about 0.3 of an acre in size. You'll be familiar with West Street, no doubt, so no need for me to spend too much time on that. So essentially that's the proposal that it's stand at the moment. As I say, it's 9 dwellings, 6 of those would be 2-bedroom and 3 of them would be 3-bedroom and 2.5 storey in height along the frontage there at West Street. There's a pedestrian access point off West Street as well, which would be a secured gate for future residents. There's a, you may be able to pick it up on there, there's a cycle storage facility and bin refuse collection storage facilities at the top end of the site, and also one at the bottom end of the site. We have, as I said, looked at various assessments on the site. So biodiversity net gain, we've had a drainage assessment, ground investigation, land contamination assessment. This is a suite of documents, Chair, which will accompany the application. All of this is online at the moment, as we notified local residents as well. There is a web page for people to look at it in a bit more detail at their leisure and to leave any comments, and Ed, my colleague, is coordinating those comments. They'll go in as part of any application in due course. We have, as I said, carried out quite a bit of consultation, certainly with the vicar next door as well, to understand what their sort of aims and aspirations are with regards to boundary treatment between the two. We think there's some opportunity to improve what's there at the moment, which is pretty heavily fenced and various sort of particularly attractive looking sort of fences with spikes on, etc., which he is keen to examine how we might sort of improve that boundary between the two. That's a typical sort of house style on the front now. As I say, that's 2.5 stories, 3-bedroom properties. These are all National Space Standard compliant. And there are 4 different house types within the 9 being proposed. That's typically one of the 2-storey properties. Currently looking at sort of a brick and tile roof materials palette, albeit we've not yet sort of got into that level of detail as part of the application. It will, however, be a full application. The intention is to make a full application rather than an outline application with various house types on there. They are some typical sections and street scenes and elevations. So the top one is presenting the view from West Street looking into the site. On the right hand side of that run of 3 properties, it would be, as I say, a pedestrian connection point. And then the view from below is the view taken from the car park to the church hall there. And as you see, what we're looking to do is to have a smallish, again, details to be agreed really with the church in due course, but a smallish wall with railings on to make that boundary somewhat more appealing and attractive to the church as much as to future residents. You may well notice, or you may well have questions and stuff, we are presently not proposing any car parking on the site by virtue of we think it's in a sustainable central location, and we think there's good accessibility to local services and facilities, and in light of various sort of carbon reduction policies both adopted and emerging, we thought it was entirely appropriate not to propose parking on there. Now, I'm sure that people will have questions and concerns about that, Chair. I'm more than happy to answer those. As indeed came out of the public consultation event today, that was probably the single major concern that those residents that did turn up had. The concern was about parking on surrounding streets. We have done quite a bit of work on that with regards to enforcement procedures which are in place on certainly on Bessemer Way, on the new estate below, the countryside estate below, which name I can't remember, my apologies. We understand both of those roads have a management regime in place against parking. Notwithstanding that, Chair, residents have been concerned about the amount of on-street parking from other residents. So there's a combination of that, there's a combination of yellow lining on the around the main junctions as well, and alternatives to parking on site are people parking along West Street as people do now. But it's very much about not being car dependent. We do think there's an opportunity to take advantage of its proximity to major employers up and down the road, and Morrison's very close and various other facilities as well. But I appreciate that's not without concern, which will be raised no doubt by councillors and members of the public. And I think, Chair, that's it. My apologies if I've gone through that rather quickly and stuff, but appreciate, as I say, the time and that you're familiar with the location in the first place.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
To just take, because this is a pre-application.
It's not. Sorry, it's not actually, Chair. No, it's slightly frustrating. I think we have tried on a couple of occasions now to go through a pre-app process with Cheshire East, but been able to do so. They've not. We understand that they've not been offering that service now since COVID for minor applications, I think, which this is sort of under the threshold for that. So we've got that pretty well catalogued in terms of written correspondence backwards and forwards. It would have been nice to have had a formal pre-app, but that's not been possible.
Okay.
So at this point, members may choose to ask you some questions. That's entirely down to members of the chair. Initially, obviously, you've already raised the parking issue. Traditionally, we understand the principle of sustainable locations. That's not an issue we struggle with.
Sure.
The principle might be considered. Would there be any social mitigation for the potential of 9 dwellings and the likelihood of a number of those having car or cars and the impact that will have locally?
I mean, there will be, as part of the proposals, relevant Section 106 contributions that will come up, no doubt, in more detailed discussions. I'm not certain I understand your question entirely. Then, any social mitigation, or concerns about not providing cars to what negative impacts that might be?
It may be an understandable position to expect those properties, a number of them, if not the majority of them, to have residents with cars. There are localised parking issues, West Street being a significant part of that. And so against planning policy, even though it's considered it might be in a sustainable location, it's not providing parking spaces. Is there any means by which that would be reconsidered or reconfigured?
Not present. I'll be very open, honest with you. Not presently. We're not considering any alternatives there. I think there are. I mean, we are successfully promoting sites across the country at the moment where there's been zero parking, but we're being actively encouraged as well by certain local authorities to, from a zero carbon and air quality issues in particular and stuff. So, but we genuinely think it's an appropriate location to look at that. We have successfully managed on other sites to control ownership as well. It's quite difficult, but it can be written into ownership of properties about making it abundantly clear that people don't have parking facilities here, and certainly not, because it's certainly a concern that the church have raised as well about people parking there. And I think through the right management regime, I think that can be controlled. But I mean, ultimately, stopping someone from owning a car is very, very difficult, and it'll be, as I'm sure it is along West Street now, it's probably going to be a sort of first come, first served about who gets to park outside, and not necessarily going to park outside your house because there are yellow lines directly opposite the site on that junction as well. But ultimately, we're not going to be in a position to completely control whether people own one or indeed more than one car per property. We have had a chat with the church about possibilities of leasing maybe a couple of parking spaces from them. They're going to have a think about that. But to answer your question, we've not ruled it out. But as we are today, then we're not presently we're not currently thinking about provision.
And on the net biodiversity gain,
Yes.
what is that number compared to when the site was fully furnished with plants and trees that went across the road?
I think we are. It did, yes. So you will all be acutely aware of.
So what's that 21% net biodiversity gain measured against? It now as an empty site, it as a previously developed site, or a site that did have trees on it?
It was as a previously developed site, yeah, but it was a cleared site. You're absolutely right when the assessment was done. So the base starting point, top of my head, was a lot lower than it would have been had the site, contained more vegetation than those mature trees at the time. So I think the base we started about sort of 40%, which I think is a metric that you can apply to a cleared site as opposed to what it might have been. But we didn't at that point go and assess it anyway, so there was no real knowledge of what the value of it might have been at that point. And so through planting and various measures in some of the fabric of one or two of the houses in terms of back boxes or bird boxes and things like that, rear garden spaces, we can get it up to whatever that says there, give me 21.95%. All surface water, there's attenuation on site, which is good as soakaways and properties and stuff, so we can pick it up and surface water and collect it in the footpaths as well. And foul drainage it's on the system already for foul, so there's a relatively straightforward connection into foul. But yeah, it's showing a gain of 21% from where that base metric was, and so we have done a full ecological assessment. That will be one of the documents that ends up in the application as well. So it's a council.
I'm really sorry, just I'm mindful of time.
Yeah, sorry.
A couple more questions.
Yeah, sure.
So the roof plans at this stage show no PV at the minute.
No PVs. No, but it'll be a requirement under whatever our building regs requirements will be at that point.
I would imagine so. We still would have to be shown on a plan application if it's going to be there.
Okay, we can do that. That's fine. Yeah, that's no problem.
And you spoke about boundary treatments. There is an expectation of wildlife penetrability of that, so hedgehogs getting through and the like.
I'd need to go back and check what we said in the ecological report, but I wouldn't think that was beyond the sort of capabilities of making those changes now before that's being submitted. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chair. I've fulfilled my questions.
Is there anybody else? Steve?
Can you explain about the bin storage,
Sure.
in particular how that might be accessed by
The refuse collection. So at the moment, Councillor, we're showing it. So is there a laser thing on here?
There is on there, yeah.
Is there? Where am I looking? Is that one there?
Somewhere
Oh, sorry, there you go. wrong button. Apologies. Oh, there we go.
I can do it with the mouse because I know what
but essentially there is a bin store shown at the top of the site there by the pedestrian.
That's my fault, sorry.
Right, that's all right. There we go. Oh, there we
What I was doing there.
Thank you. Where that cursor is now, there's a bike store there. So the intention was to provide some electrical secure bike storage in there, and then bin store above that. And again, that's I think through a sensible management regime there, about residents taking their bins to there and then putting them out onto the public highway. Obviously, when it's a Tuesday for bins or Thursday, whatever the day is. So they're not. So we're very much thinking that those bins are on a domestic scale as opposed to.
Yeah.
If you look at the development immediately to the east there on the apartments there, that's more of a trade bin pickup thing. So this was very much sort of bins on plot, really. And people took their bins to the bin store or put them out onto the highway at the appropriate time. But we think we're well within those recovery distances anyway. If the bin guys needed to come through, if you can give them an access code for the gate to come in and get the bins. One question that came out today, which is a really important question, was raised by a member of the public about fire provision as well and minimum distances between fire engines. And we are, other than the last two properties on there, we're within the 45-metre rule there, a distance from the engine to the furthest property. The last two properties would see dry riser systems going into it and various fire suppressant systems as an alternative because of that distance. Members of the public today rightly that lived on number 2, 4 and 6 Bessemer Way raised concern about the proximity of those properties that they lived in and the properties 8 and 9 as well. We've got separation distances there about 15 to 16 metres. Feels a bit tighter when you look at the policy talks about 24, I think it was, but there's some flexibility in that. I think those standards, we think that that arrangement is more oblique than straight back to back. None of those 2 properties there would contain, other than obscure glazing in the bathroom window on the first floor on 8 and 9. There's roof lights in there, which are quite common on the countryside scheme there. So bedroom space in the loft with roof lights there. So we ran through that with them on the house types, but right, you know, as is their right and their concerns, they're unlikely to be supporting the proposal, I would suggest, Chair, because of that proximity. But we're pretty comfortable with that arrangement, having done those measurements and separation distances.
And really getting to the end of the... Just for a point of clarification with the clerk, will there be a planning application coming for this site that we would look at in a future date?
Once submitted, it'll be come to us, yeah.
Once you've submitted, we will then take it as an agenda item. So
Absolutely.
thank you for sort of letting us have a toe in the water with the plans and what you're looking. But we would then formally respond. One of the things that we are consistently across when we look at planning applications is parking, bin storage and the biodiversity. Even though it might well be in West Street, there's quite a lot of foxes that get about. So we're consistent. If you look at our responses to planning applications, there's a consistency there that because what we try to do is improve Crewe and not accept what it, we're trying to get forward.
Yeah.
So we'll look at the quality.
Absolutely, Chair. No,
so I'll just be straight up. When you put it in, we will then obviously look at that and then we'll form as a committee make a response.
I'm a past resident of Crewe, Chair, myself. I've been in Bristol now for 25 years. I haven't lived in Crewe for quite a long time, so I have an interest as well. I'd like to see I'd like to build this myself. Well, not personally myself, but obviously I'd like to build it. So we've got an interest in getting it right as well.
The main thing, we have an interest in Crewe.
Yeah, well that's good. Yeah, that's good.
So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your time, councillors.
So I'm sure you don't want to stop all the evening, but you're more than welcome to stop till about 8 o'clock.
That's very kind of you, but I think it's been a long day.
Okay.
Interesting as your agenda looks, I think we'll press on.
Okay, well,
thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So we move swiftly on there to our next presentation, which is the development at Chester Street. Give you a chance to set up.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for inviting myself and Claire. I'm the land director for McCarthy Stone, the site of Lightstars Limited in Claire's mine, planning consultant who works for a company called Planning Potential based in Harrogate. I thought it would be just worth if I introduce, why we decided to propose something new in Crewe. I'll keep it fairly high level. If you've got any questions specifically about the team, then feel free to fire those at the two of us. McCarthy Stone as a business, we're on a journey at the moment to offer affordability, flexibility and choice for those in later life who want to move from what is normally a typical family home into something more specialist. For us, Crewe we see as a really, really interesting town to develop in. We've developed in places like Nantwich, Northwich, the other surrounding towns to Crewe, but never actually Crewe itself. And we've seen the work we've done in the town centre. It's a fantastic location in terms of the accessibility of the town. You've got a good high street. We see this as a really interesting location for us to develop what we're proposing here, which is a 51-bedroomed, 3-storey apartment building. This is C3 use class. It's not care. It is a residential. Proposal that we're putting to you. We as a business buy sites, build apartments, sell them, but we also retain as well. So we would be looking to establish a presence here into perpetuity should this application be approved. We have as a business about 23,000 older people under our management, and crew like those would fall under that. The scheme has about 70% one-bedroom apartments. You know, we're mindful that by having 36 one-bedroom apartments, that offers a more affordable range of unit type with a slightly smaller number of two-bedroom properties. We want to maximise the affordability of the product, and by offering a slightly higher proportion of one-bedroom properties, that we feel is the most appropriate option here. The apartments themselves are all designed to national space standards. Every apartment is wheelchair accessible as part of the overall design. We've shown a scheme of 20 car parking spaces. There is potential to increase that if we ever needed to, but we feel that given how well connected the site is to the new bus station, the train station that's nearby, we don't feel that having lots of parking particularly benefits either crew or our residents. The proposal will allow us to offer a full-time house manager on site who will help manage events, look after the welfare of our homeowners. There'll be a communal garden for those homeowners to use as well, and really try and build what we hope to be a thriving older community right in the heart of Crewe. You may have seen as a business we have strategic partnership status with Homes England as well, so there is a potential here that we could offer a grant-funded shared ownership proposition as well. So again, the idea being that these apartments could become even more affordable than what we're trying to offer at the outset as well. So we're delighted to be here. I'll keep it short and sweet. If you've got any questions about the actual scheme or any of the reports and things, then please feel free to ask.
Okay.
Your point about there's an opportunity that units could be offered, more units in a more affordable way. Would could there? Can you explain how could can be changed to will?
So as a business, we have. I think we will offer. We'll offer 100% of the apartments for the shared ownership group. There's a few qualifying criteria because it's a specific older person's scheme, so you have to be the right age. You have to be able to demonstrate that this will be a single point of residence and things. There's a few things that we can need to happen, but it's something that we would be offering the potential for this to be 100% shared ownership if that's what people want. If people want to buy 100% of the apartment value, then fine. It's a grant-funded shared ownership proposition, so it's not something that can be secured by Section 106 agreement. That's the only thing I would say. So we have done a financial viability assessment to cover that, the Section 106 legal point, but you'll see on our website we're offering various units across the country now for shared ownership, so you can buy as little as 25% or as much as 75% as part of the Homes England grant. So it's an interesting idea, and yeah, we would be offering shared ownership across all the units if that's what people wanted.
Could you also share the calculation that demonstrates 2 disabled parking spaces in an older person's accommodation? It seems potentially quite a small number.
Yeah, I'd have to, if I can take that away, I can ask my highways consultant to give you the rationale. I don't know off the top of my head.
You're welcome to take that away. Unfortunately, the decision on our response will be made tonight. That's all.
That was my highways consultant's view of the local policies were. So, that's probably
It'll be 10%, won't it? So that's come off from the council's 10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's 20 spaces, 2 of those, then therefore being the 10%.
I'm done, Chair.
Okay. Anybody? Do you wish to carry on, or do you want some questions?
Yeah, I figured questions are probably yeah.
Dave?
Okay, well, you were here for the last presentation, so can you say a bit about bin storage?
Yeah.
Conceivably, cycle storage. I don't know about biodiversity at the moment, but well, you could say something about that too. Particularly, it's the bin storage is one access for that, because you've got 61.
Exactly right. Sorry, for some reason it's gone off the screen right now, but it was there a second ago. The bin storage is on there, but obviously you can take that. Good point. I did notice I couldn't see any cycle parking on the site.
Okay.
It's, okay. Yes, if there's only 20 parking spaces proposed, then one assumes, I mean, if these are elderly people like me, or even older,
Can I just say, mobility scooters possibly rather than
Oh,
cycles?
well, cycles. Well, there are people
Yeah,
who are
but
my
I
age who
think-
cycle, but yeah, cycles, like
Maybe.
mobility
Wow.
scooters and things like that. Disabled access you've mentioned, but yeah, we could perhaps about that, please.
So on the bin storage point, we've got a self-enclosed bin up bin storage area, which is external to the building. Which is, they're shown on the plan. That's an equivalent size to the schemes we've offered and delivered elsewhere in Cheshire East. So it's no smaller than what we've done elsewhere. From a cycle storage point of view, the buggy store can be used to store cycles, but they all have electrical hookup points, so you can obviously charge a buggy, and even so, if you've got an electric bike, you could use that. We can put some external cycle storage for put a shelter anywhere on the site if that's something you'd like to see. We can definitely accommodate that within the proposal. From a biodiversity net gain point of view, we do demonstrate a net gain. There's not a great deal of biodiversity on that site, stop giving its use. And you'll see on the plan the area of woodland to the south of the site is, whilst it is would be in our ownership, we're not intending to remove any trees. We don't need to, so our intention is to leave that area well alone.
There's a 22.36% gain on the site with this.
Behind the site, that's going to be a potential that's going to be some form of nature trail.
You're on the Valleybrook Way. That's the other side of the brook.
No, that particular spot there, which is like a triangle bit of land, that is going to be developed. There's a potential to actually develop that as a walk and get children and for nature and for learning. So it's quite so they try to encourage. They'll try to encourage more, birds and various things within that. So it's it's going to be developed there. So that's interesting. Could I just ask on a general across McCarthy Stone, because obviously a nationwide company.
The biggest, I think the UK's biggest. We certainly have the biggest market share when it comes to the development of older persons' property.
This particular development, do you base it on a formula? So you've got this sort of, because it's all about making it, the size of it and making it feel comfortable for people. So that could be here or Harrogate, say. It wouldn't be any different when you look at it.
So we've
I only
launched
said that's what you base it. But you know what I mean?
So we've launched a new concept as a business, which is it's a product that allows us to go into areas that traditionally we wouldn't have gone into. And by doing that, there's a few things we've done, and it involves having a very, very efficient building footprint. So what the homeowner buys in terms of the amenities, the size of the lounges, the communal garden areas, they are designed to be identical to what we do in what you may have seen in Nantwich, for example. I guess where we've seen the efficiencies is the apartments are smaller than we would typically offer, but like I said, they always meet the national space standards. They're not a substandard apartment, they are just that bit smaller, which allows us to put slightly more onto a site when typically we normally develop on a site of this nature about 40 to 42 apartments on average, whereas this is obviously a bit bigger. So by having a slightly higher density, it allows us to offer them at the lower price that is attractive to local people. There's trying to think of other efficiencies.
They're all carbon fit, the reduction in carbon footprint, all that kind of thing. So the way that they're developed.
It's a modern method of construction, so we save a lot in terms of wastage of materials. The tightness is far better, so the ongoing costs are significantly less as well.
And there will be PVs on
PV on the roof.
Yes, I've seen the roof plan.
Yeah, we've got PVs, yeah. And then SRC funds for all the apartments. There's various ways in which we can invest in it now to make it cheaper in the long run, therefore allowing people, a local person to Crewe to be able to buy this apartment. You know, we're not selling these at £300,000. These are going to be very much priced to people who live in Crewe and always have done. And as a business, that's something we're really proud to now be able to offer, because 2 years ago when we started this journey, we could never have developed successfully in Crewe. So yeah, we're pleased that after 2 years of trying, we've managed to finally find an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes.
One last comment is that you'll see, members, that if we look that way, those are the railway cottages here, which are the listed buildings off Chester Street. You've briefly spoken on section 106 or community investment, and there is a heritage aspect to that site of this boundary wall, which has long term been an issue for the site, being it's a private ownership site, and the boundary wall. There may be an opportunity for positive investment in that, the repair of that wall to make it future sustainable.
Do you know who that, because I had a look at that today because I've seen your comment, is that privately owned by people who own cottages?
No, the boundary wall itself, the exact delineation of where it sits is unclear. It might be that it is owned by the town council now, but that is unclear. But I'm absolutely certain, as an asset of the town of long standing, its future security is of value.
I mean, I think it just might be of interest to you to point out a fact. It's a simple fact. The site that you're proposing for development effectively was at one time the home or the site for the house of Francis Webb.
It was very impressive when I saw the historic maps. I thought, wow, you would never. You look at it and wouldn't think it was this what looks like this huge almost villa with a huge garden and incredibly impressive.
That was probably the garden wall. So at that side, that's just one aspect.
Yeah, the exact demised aspect of where those boundaries are, unfortunately, we lost to time. It stands there looking to be loved.
That's I guess it's something I can't commit to.
No, I understand that.
It's
thrown into the mix.
It is, yeah, I was going to say, the footpath is definitely owned by the council, because I know we had, I seem to remember that being cropping up on the conveyance.
Okay, Johnny.
Just one simple question. You mentioned that ordinarily you'd do units of about 40 odd, and you're doing a bit more in this development. How much smaller are they than the usual? Like, for example,
not much.
Yeah.
They're about, we'd be talking
each unit?
less than 10 square metres each.
So do they get like a lounge and then a dining kitchen?
Yeah, so they're all self-contained apartments, so open plan living, kitchen area, like a lounge area, bathroom, bedroom. The two bedroom properties obviously, two bedroom.
Yes,
that's the only change. There are a range of different sizes, so some of them, if you live above the ground floor lounge area, then you have there's some slightly larger apartments as well. So it's not just they're not just one. There's a range of sizes. The projections on the buildings where we've tried to articulate, particularly that frontage, again allows people. There's a range of sizes, like larger, small.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, the last question then.
Yeah, but does the building have a lift?
It does, yeah.
Because I couldn't find it on the plan.
Yeah, no, there is definitely, definitely.
Good question.
Is that it there?
I think
it is, yeah.
That's what we're there.
I thought it was, but I thought I might as well ask the question while I was here. So I would like to look up on them stairs.
No, I don't think we would sell the park.
Right, definitely last question.
No, right, I'm thinking that there's a sprinkler system.
There is, yeah. So every apartment has a sprinkler. And the communal areas as well.
Is it fed from the main supply, or will it have its own separate supply?
It has its own independent water tank.
On site?
On site, yeah, in order for that to take effect.
Okay, any more?
No.
that, Craig?
My meet, Chair, yeah.
Okay, well, we have got your application later on the agenda, and we will make comment in more detail. But thank you for sharing and your plans and the rationale as to why you can actually build in Crewe now as opposed to in the past.
Yeah,
And that's very helpful actually.
I'll stay for the debate if that's okay.
I'll
Yeah.
make a move to have a bit of
Yeah. Chair, do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, go on.
On that basis, Chair, shall I propose that we take, actually, at what point on the agenda?
Agenda item 6, the
So,
first
yeah.
item.
Shall we move it up the agenda?
So, lady, you say you're stopping?
Yes, yes.
If it's been moved up, I will, yeah, I'll happily stay.
Which,
You can take it, it's at your discretion, Chair.
Well, in the fact if you wish to stop, then I think it would be prudent for us to move over if that's okay.
yeah.
Helpful. Okay then. So thank you for sharing.
Thank
So
you.
we'll take item 6, 23, 37, 73,
Yeah.
which is a demolition of existing buildings and erection of 51 apartment retirement living development, landscaping, car parking and all associated works on the Croswell Social and Working Men's Club.
Okay, well, Chair, I can't add any value to the presentation you've already had on this item. There are some responses, actually one's been received since I last looked at it there. 64 Bedford speaks about affordability mix. We've had a response from the developer on that tonight. And Councillor Critchley has called the item into Southern Planning. We don't know the outcome of that. It may well go on the Southern Plan agenda. I haven't seen this one, so I looked at it today. This one's obviously... Okay. The objection there appears to be associated with the loss of the venue and the provision of car parking and the prevalence of care homes and retirement properties. There's not an awful lot of material planning issues we can take forward on that, I would suggest, Chair.
No.
There's an awful lot of information on a development of this scale. I think it's, I would suggest that Councillor Critch's request to take it forward to Cheshire's Planning Committee is totally appropriate due to its scale. Of the items, I'm happy to pull up any of these bits and pieces. I have done a brief, easy touch list of documents here, but it's all the same things you've seen really. We've seen the landscape plan, which demonstrates a large portion of the site being left to trees. The site is a partially developed site, and the net biodiversity gain can easily be demonstrated due to the planting that we added. I'm sorry, for our visitors, our computer is very slow, just wait. And I have no issues there. The PV on the roof is evident in the plans. The item about cycle storage, whether it's a cycle shed or a cycle shelter, it would be generally expected to have some provision on the site like this. And I'm trying to think what else. And it might be appropriate that we make a suggested request that any community investment monies or Section 106 as was might consider the value of the adjoining public wall there that forms part of that route there and the edge of our heritage site at railway cottages. But of that, those are my only observations on this application. As the plans load up, I'll share them on the screen now.
Okay, thanks for that. Steve?
Well, I mean, I'll just say at this stage, I actually saw Councillor Critchley by chance at the weekend, and yes, I saw his copy. He said he was going to try and request, call it in, requested to go to committee, but in fact, even he will acknowledge that had already happened. It's shown for decision on the 29th of November, which is the Southern Planning Committee, and if they don't do it, then presumably it will be in the new year. so it's already going to committee. So, and that's largely, I would suggest, not because of the, well, it's going to be largely because of the size of the development in this case, 16 units. So there will be quite a considerable public debate there. That's where the decision will be made, as you no doubt appreciate, as the applicants will appreciate, I should say, and everybody else too. So ours are just observations. I would have to say that the provision of only 20 spaces struck me as, well, that's something that needs to be given some consideration, I think. There's no doubt, I mean, the adjacent car park that already currently exists, where some of the car parking will be in the future, I think it's reasonably well used. But that is public car parking which will be lost. And we all know, because the point's been made elsewhere, that there's a multi-storey car park in the offing any time now, plus numerous other flat car parks in the area. So that in itself isn't going to be making a huge difference. But I do actually wonder whether 20 spaces is actually sufficient. Yes, it's an affordable, it's a sustainable location, and the bus stations nearby and everything else. But these are properties for people who are 55, I think age 55 or older. I think that's the normal sort of rule. So it's that's one of those questions I think that needs to be raised, because McCarthy and Stone is a national company, and there will be no doubt precedents or that elsewhere, you know, on the sort of the ratio of car parking spaces to the housing unit. Just otherwise, the option for residents who can't park might be, well, you're going to have to pay to park across the road at wherever it is, which may not be altogether desirable. But that's probably going to be one of those debating points, I would think, for Southern Planning, I'm pretty sure. Other than that, I mean, I note, I think the comment's been made already about the heritage wall, which more or less, yes, its ownership is a very interesting issue, but it's of historic interest for sure. And yeah, if some contribution could be made, that has been a running sore for years. Excuse me, the state of that wall, and you know, it's not altogether safe, I would suggest, and you've got a public footpath next to it. I'm not suggesting for a minute that is the responsibility of the applicants, but sort of those things. And I would like to ask you what some things actually sort of make it, if you like, declare that as there was a residents Railway Cottages Residents Association which covers the adjacent area. I am a member of that and vice chair, but it's not pecuniary. They obviously have a heritage interest in that area. So that's just openness and transparency to declare that. Other than that, I mean, I would say I'm not altogether excited by the design, but then I dare say it will fit in quite well with the street scene that develops. And in the general way, I think I would welcome a proposal of this nature in the town centre, particularly the fact that there's potentially such a large proportion of affordable dwellings which are urgently needed. There's lots of other properties that are far more expensive, but yes, I look forward to seeing affordable mean exactly that, affordable by the normal citizenry of Crewe in this area.
Okay, well, like you say, I've got Tony and then Kevin, and then I'll say a few words.
Following on from the parking. As a matter of interest, how many are going to be two bedrooms?
You can't address now.
Oh, can't I?
No,
Okay, sorry about that. Does anybody know how many two beds and how many one beds are going to be? Is it clear or not?
There was
Yeah, it
more
does
one
say
beds.
It was 36 one
I
bed,
can't remember.
25 two bed.
36 one beds and...
I can see some nodding, yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
number.
36 one beds.
Yeah.
Right, okay, thank you. I was just sort of following on from what Steve said about the parking. I mean, my view on that is that if someone is considering purchasing something like that smack in the town, they know they're going to probably want it with no parking. There's a bus and it's the age group that chooses not to drive. They want everything at hand. So ordinarily, parking is an issue, yeah. I would agree whenever we've looked at different things, but probably not for this particular project because of the things, because the idea of living right in the town is that everything's accessible, and that's the reason why. So the number of parking, if anything, 5 more I think would balance it out a bit more, but other than that, I think it's sufficient, because the whole idea of living there, you've got the bus station, you've got the shops, you've got everything at hand. So that would be my view. And yeah, it's a much needed development.
Yeah, okay.
That's my view.
I think I've got here 70% one bed, 5, got it right. We have a bus station, but not too many buses. Right. Kevin.
My only concern is the car parking spaces, but 20 is enough. We've got 51 buildings in there.
Echoing what Steve said. Okay.
But if you've only got 2 parking bays and you increased it, if there was 10 or 12 people that lived in that building that got blue badges, every one of them would have a disabled parking space. So it's all right having the national average saying you've got 20 car parks, you can have 2. You could have 4 people living in there, you'll have two of them wanting to park the car on top of the other one.
Well, Cheshire is still have very formula, don't they, for one-bedroom apartments and so on. So you raised similar to what Steve said. Madeline, would you like to?
Well, in relation to parking, I think the aspiration would be that people who haven't got cars and don't want to have a car and don't want to rely on a car would be encouraged to buy a property inside, especially a one-bedroom property, a single person possibly, or a couple. And they would be buying that with the view that they're not going to have a car. And I think mainly the problem where you get apartments and it's presumed that people aren't going to have cars and then they do, that's usually, dare I say, more sort of families, more people who are working, people with young children tend to need to have a car more, don't they? And then you have the problem of them parking on the streets and causing congestion in the area. Now, I can't see that people would be able to do that people would buy an apartment here and think, oh well, I'll be able to park on the street, because they wouldn't be able to, would they, because it's right in the middle of town. They would have to walk a fair distance to be able to park on the street. So I think it's always good to mention parking, but in this instance I wouldn't be too worried about it. What stands out for me is that there is, it's an attractive design, it's brick, which is more traditional. It's got open areas of amenity space, gardens, and it's not full to the brim, the plot, with dwellings. It's got a fair proportion of outside space and storage space, etc. The fact that it is a developer who are known for being, if you like, a bit more upmarket. We've got an aspiration for Crewe to have more residents within the town centre. We want a mix of residents, don't we? A mix of ages. And we have said before, and I think the general plan for Crewe is to have more people living in the middle of Crewe, and it can help the local economy. And if you've got a mix of age groups, people over 55 may still want to go out in the evening. And you know, go to a cinema or restaurants, etc.
Oh, I
But
do
also-
70.
Yes, well, I would like to say how many times I go out. But during the day as well, you know, we've got McCarthy and Stone in Nantwich, and the town centre is a very popular place. People go to coffee shops,
Yeah, I'm not
etc.
worried about the car.
Okay.
Just
So
go
I
out
think
and-
I haven't got any objections.
You suggested you're favourable. Can I just say that, and I think we just need to raise it at the meeting because it's the right thing to do. It is in a heritage setting. It has got the grade 2 listed cottages, you know, Lagan cottages that are there. And I know that it's opposite Delamere and Wellington House, which, you know, best will in the world, you know, they put new windows in recently, but it doesn't really make it attractive. However, when I look at that, it reminds me of the UTC because of the actual shape of it. Now the bricks I like, but there's no, you know, to me it's now the summer. You know what I mean? I would look for something a bit more there next to the cottages. You know, but I appreciate that it is opposite the, you know, 7 stores, whatever it is, and they have. But the real potential to do that, you know, I mean, it's there. And what was on that site was villas with traditional gable ends and roofs and so on and so on. So I would look personally, and I'm very supportive of building in the town centre, and very supportive of what, you know, the fact a nationwide company wants to build it should be. I think that is a positive and good thing to spur Crewe on. However, this is the time to say, are you happy with that particular design? Not that it's brick, because that's really good, that is. But can that be sort of softened up a little bit? You know, I'm really floating that, Colin.
I agree with you.
You know.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. Yeah.
I think it'd look a lot better with a picture.
I do as well. I agree with that.
Considering that you've got the cottages at the back of it, instead sending it a little bit higher up. But I think if it had a pitch roof, it would look a bit more pleasing rather than
The square block. I agree
block.
with that.
Madeline,
Well,
what's thinking?
I totally disagree. I think it's been very well explained in the planning application why it's not a pitch roof, why it is a flat roof. It's purposely been built that way so that it can have PV solar. You know, the panels. That's what PVs are.
Yeah,
Solar panels.
photovoltaic, yeah.
Yeah. And I won't read them all out now, but within the design statement and everything, it refers to the fact that they've looked at trying to make an attractive building and a contemporary building, but designed in such a way that they can offer quality accommodation at a lower price than often this type of accommodation would be. So I think it's an intrinsic part of the design, so I would like to start suggesting that the design was changed for those reasons. I do recall previous meetings I've been to and conversations with planners, and that the aspiration for the town centre is to have a range of different styles. That I think it is quite appropriate, as we did when we had the Edliston Road, the old school. There was conversations then with the developers, wasn't there, to try and get them to amend their designs with gable ends and things, because that area is a very, very typical Victorian style. And I think we've had consultations with the public and on when the plans for Crewe and the development of the town centre were started, where it was talked about having not necessarily, we don't want everything Victorian style or mock Victorian, and you know, it's a contemporary style, but it's with it being brick, and I think that the shape of the the windows, to me, looks more attractive in a contemporary style. I'm happy with it.
Okay then, so we
We
need to
try and
sum this.
summarise if you like. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I understand where you're coming from that point of view with the PV, I get that. But I also agree with the chair a little bit. I mean, the thing about buildings being so blocky, they're just boring, that's the only thing. And they could look, as time goes on, just look a bit, I don't know, it depends on how they weather, I get that as well. But I don't know if it's possible to have like a half pitch or something where there's just some, I know what you mean, because it just looks a bit next to the railway cottages. I don't know if there's a mix to be had, but that's putting that to it, because you can half lift it and still have your PV, and it is what it is, and we understand evolution, so that's that. But I have to say, sometimes if modern buildings aren't built correctly, they can look very shabby very quickly, and that is my only thing about it. So,
Yeah, no, it's well entitled to our views.
yeah.
We just need to get to an accommodation where we can go forward. I think sorry, Pete,
Hey, don't you have to? Sorry, I was going to try and summarise, and you can correct me.
Well, I think we're broadly we're supportive of the.
We are supportive, yeah.
I don't think there's any issue that we're supportive of the development on that site and welcome that.
Very
But,
supportive, yeah.
I mean, no, it's just soften it up, that was all.
Yeah,
Whatever
I
you
agree.
sorry, Mabel.
I mean, have you noticed it's got Juliet balconies for a start, so it's that's yeah. Yeah. It's got Juliet balconies, and as well as having the brick construction, there is some extra decorative detail sometimes on the building. Yeah.
Well, you've got councillors waiting, sorry, Chair.
Right, okay, well, we'll take the last two and then Pete will try and sum all this particular discussion up in the manner that we normally do. Steve,
Yeah.
and then...
Yeah, because when I said earlier on, I wasn't particularly excited by the design of it, the shape of it and that. But it is what it is, and I mean, I know nothing about Juliet balconies, but it's the features like that. That's great, because the two words that come into my head on this are, which could be sort of embroidered into any response, I think, would be the street scene. And you know, apart from providing it for low-cost housing or affordable housing for older people, it'd be good if that could enhance the street scene in that area. It can enhance it anyway, because of instead of having sort of a flat car park and stuff like that. But you know, so I support these suggestions that have been made. That well, if there's ways that it can be made interesting, it could be quirky even, and not a pitched roof, because I suspect that would make it over-dominating anyway.
Well, what's there now isn't very pretty, is it? And the house built up is not pretty to look at. No. So that is an improvement in my mind. Yes, good.
Could we not break up the facade of the building by putting different coloured bricks in, some sort of patterning in, to break up that just plain red feature? Because in some houses you get some, they've got like blue diamonds in the brickwork, just to break it up.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. It needs something.
I don't think we should go down the route of looking at different, but I think what we're saying is, can you soften it up with...
Yes, but if you can break that up,
yeah.
I mean, all right, there is balconies there, but I mean, they all look the same, don't they?
Right.
The front of it looks as if it wants breaking up with something.
Okay, well let's...
I'll try.
You earn your money now and try
From what I've heard, and trying to be representative of the committee, so please correct me if I'm wrong, I would suggest it sounds like the committee is broadly supportive of the principle of the development, but seeks positive consideration of the following aspects: that the calculations for the parking provisions, including the proportionality of disabled spaces, is revisited to ensure it's correct. Consideration for some form of cycle storage or shelter is included, that finessing of the aesthetic of the external of the building to be representative and to reflect the heritage setting is also considered, and consideration may be given to the potential of contribution to facilitate the appropriate repairs of the railway cottage's boundary wall.
Yeah, very good summary.
Happy to be corrected if that doesn't reflect the
I
conversation.
think it does, yeah.
I think the use of the word finesse is particularly...
I've had a bit of time to fit words in, to be honest.
Particularly interesting.
Are you happy for that accommodation to go forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all in favour then
Yeah.
for that? That's unanimous then. So, support for the accommodation. Okay then. We shall thank you. The invite stays if you wish to stay till the end of the meeting.
It only gets more exciting from here on in. No.
They'll start arguing.
We're talking.
Who was the property that was on there before? What was the background?
Francis Webb, he was the chief mechanical electrical engineer, he was the boss of the crew. He ran crew towards the end of the 19th century.
I'm going to be a little bit rude, sorry councillor, but on behalf of the chair, we're a bit tight on time now, I'm sorry about that. Perhaps I could share their contact details with you and you provide them with the full...
Okay then.
I'll absent myself for a moment from the meeting with the chair.
Let's move swiftly on. 23, 36, 13.
Yeah.
Fascia sign displaying company name and logo in Basford West.
Right, sorry.
That's JF.
Right, I'm sorry. I apologise. Get me back, back on order. So we're at item 5, 23, 3613, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Basford West Development site. It's JF category, there's a sign up on it. I think there's two parish councils have made a comment.
Yeah, there's no comments or objection that I've seen. I looked at it, it's an extremely straightforward industrial unit change of signage. You okay with that?
Yeah.
23, 30, 65. Listed building concept for replacement of 8 multi-glazed windows in the main hall, the Christadelphian Hall, 248 Edlerton Road. It's a grade 2 listed building, and I think the comment that they put English heritage, as long as it's not plastic, and they replace them with a wood.
That's right, Chair. There is some information on there. I would suggest it's not hugely detailed. So talking about these windows here, this is one of our older buildings. It is listed, it does have value. The replacement of these windows, which are deteriorating to the extreme, to be fair on the owners of the property, the Christadelphian Church community, and they're looking to replace them. The details in the plan application don't go very far into what they're going to replace them with. I would like to recommend to you that, unfortunately, to the timing, we've got time to do this. Our heritage officer hasn't had the opportunity to respond to this yet, but is aware of it. That we ask our heritage officer to look at it in detail and give clear recommendations and considerations associated with the final materials. The Cheshire East Heritage Officer has mentioned that the window bars should be not obtrusive but very fine, but there's no detailing in there, and I'd be worried that that leaves scope for potential risk. But I don't think the Christadelphian community is looking to damage the church in any way, but equally, whilst it's a planning process, I think there's added value in a bit more detailing. So at this stage, if I can recommend that as a response, whilst we have no issue with the repair of the church, a little bit more detailed recommendations from our heritage officer might be appropriate.
Yeah.
Is that okay then?
Yeah,
colleagues?
yeah.
Put that on. Right. Next one. 23, 36, 74. Change of use from office, light industrial to indoor swimming pool. Unit 2, the training centre, Worcester Road.
Yeah.
Well, familiar with the setting there, Gardner Road.
That's it. There are objections in from neighbouring units, commercial units, of different natures, concerned about noise, availability of parking, safe pedestrian access, things like that. And equally there is a representation from the member public saying it's a welcome addition. But in effect, that unit will have this additional facility put in there, which is a swimming pool. It's, as you can see, and as you know, it's located there off Worcester Road on those units there. There's not a huge amount of detail in the plans. Is there anything you want to see about it particularly? I'm giving you the floor plan and see the location. The elevations don't tell you an awful lot. You can have a look. It's just different signage really.
Marlon?
I welcome the fact that, you know, it's within this area designated as a business centre, and it looks as if they're going to improve the site to offer a sustainable business, which I think is a good thing.
I think the observation I would have is that access to the site and parking on the site, because both of those businesses that are on there have objected for one, because there's not a clear definition of car parking, whose car spot is whose, if you like. And one of them has objected on the basis that whilst there will be articulated trucks, there will be stacker trucks, forklift trucks, on the site, and you've got families coming with the children and the cars. But then equally they say, they object because they have quiet areas where business people have meetings and they want to be quiet. And the noise of the children would be detrimental to that. Well, I'm sorry, there's noise of the children against articulated lorries and forklift trucks clinking and clanking. I'm sorry, it doesn't hold water with me.
No pun intended.
Thank you. So let's have this. If we look at it as a swimming pool that somebody wants to invest in, and clearly the person from 17 Aldersey Road has said the lifestyle centre one is oversubscribed,
Yes.
you can't get your children in, then there's clearly an opportunity for families to go there that's needed. It's done homework. They run the club now in Tamworth and they move to Crewe. So I look at it, providing there's some safety for the cars and families that might walk there. I mean, you know, people do walk and they might walk. We need to have a safe access. But personally, I think that is an excellent application.
I would agree with that. I think it's much needed. As you say, the lifestyle centre's oversubscribed.
Well, I think you summed it all up, Chair.
I think the safety bit is important, what you said as well.
So we...
Well, I can respond saying the application is welcomed with consideration for on-site safety.
The safety bit, yeah, I'd be saying the same thing.
Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Next one then. 233644. Non-material amendment to approved application 214382. Which is a demolition of the existing buildings. Well, it's Hunter's Lodge, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there seems to be some concern about this particular non-material amendment.
Any particular bit you want to see those? There's concerns about the boundary treatments. Is that what you're referring to, Chair? Which bit are you referring to about the concerns? Concerns about boundary
There's some
treatments?
concerns from some of those that say, I don't know if it's the Bentley Drive or the Civic, but they're saying they're already doing this, and there's the concerns of the
enforcement officer.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay. Well, the enforcement officer is aware of it, and that's a planned enforcement issue. Whether they're operating within the constraints of their planning application. it's not something we have any greater insight than that. There is concerns registered about how the boundary treatments might affect the existing hedge line, because that's supposed to be retained. That's it. In terms of the revisions that they're talking about, these are parts of the affordable accommodation flats. So that was what was granted. It's a bit hard to say. I'm really sorry. It's not very clear for me to read, let alone you and you're a bit further away. What are my notes on this? Excuse me. The residential accommodation sizes have been reduced and therefore provide for a lower standard in affordable accommodation. And the apartments as defined as one bedroom is misleading, as they show a lounge and a TV room, with the TV room misrepresented as it will be a second bedroom in a living practice. As such, the designs demonstrate the intent to not meet and circumvent the minimum technical housing standard. My observations on those amendments.
Could you just highlight, when it says it's a non-material amendment, if I see those words I think, in that case it's neither here nor there, you know, but, and what exactly is that amendment then?
So it's these two joints. That is what was granted.
And they've gone out of it.
All of it. So there we go, this bottom bit's just loaded up, I apologise. The ground, the upstairs and the ground floor have changed. In that, the first floor, not massively changed, but the ground floor had these extensions on them. I'm sorry the computer doesn't load very quickly. I suppose we could invest in a better computer, which is seen here. But in so doing, you can see they've been removed in the revised plan. So you got revision A, revision B, and therefore you're losing accommodation on the footprints because of it. I also feel it's right to make you aware that these rooms here are shown as TV rooms. There is already a lounge there and a lounge there. So they are providing 2-bedroom units, not single-bedroom units. And if they're 2-bedroom units, they're below the technical minimum housing standard. I don't know that a TV room as well as a lounge is a thing in that sort of accommodation.
So its description as a non-material amendment is misleading.
I would suggest it's easy to feel misled in that setting.
Yes.
And I can't perceive that has been labelling a thing as a TV room. I don't think it's been done by accident. But I could be wrong.
No.
Right. So do you want to make a comment?
Well, I'm pointing out that for me, I feel that they've reduced the quality of the accommodation, the affordable housing units, which are these units providing 4 flats over these semi-detached houses in effect, and also they're representing the footprint as a single bedroom unit to make it so they don't have to make it the scale of a 2-bedroom unit to meet the technical minimum housing standards.
Are these the only affordable units on the development?
Oh, I think there are some other apartments in a larger complex, but that's as part of this application. I'm sure we can consider that's the material, the non-material change they've referenced on their thing. There isn't something else as well about the development of boundary treatments, not boundary treatments, the main complex in the middle, and I couldn't find the difference. So I would suggest that seems a lot more non-material.
I would agree that if it reduces certain room sizes below those minimum technical standards, good reason to object.
Yeah, I would suggest they're presenting 2-bedroom units as single-bedroom units now below the technical.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that okay, Colin?
Yes.
Yeah, Tony?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay then, next one then. 233484, which is convert premises from office with flat above to 3 1-bedroom flats and 2 studios for providing residential accommodation for people in need of care, with an ancillary office accommodation at ground floor, 1 Lawton Street. Did we have an application in not long since for this?
I don't remember this
Slightly
specific
different.
thing. You might be right.
It was a So they withdraw it.
I'm sure you're right.
Access down an alley.
I think you're on actually, yeah.
What sort of care are they talking about? Is it,
Where is it?
well, no, what
No,
sort of care are they
People who
talking
require
about?
care.
I couldn't identify it. It said
Specify.
vulnerable adults, maybe with support needs.
Mm.
But that's that. Now, on this one, again, unfortunately, I identified a couple of issues here. I perceive them as, you don't have to agree with me. First floor layout, which is this bit up here, goes on to this flat roof here. Proposes 2 separate living spaces, neither conform to the minimum technical housing standard on space of providing minimum gross internal living space area of 37 square metres for a single occupancy. Noting that single occupancy has not been specified and so could be used for multiple occupancy, and therefore the proposals are further from the compliance. The ground floor layout proposes 3 separate living spaces, 2 of which do not conform to the minimum technical housing standard in space of providing a minimum gross internal space area of 50 square metres for occupancy by 2 people. The application does not provide details of sustainable waste storage, does not provide details of secure cycle storage. Safe emergency at the first floor egress across a flat roof has not been defined or discounted. The design access statement references adequate on-street parking provision available, which is not the case and evidenced by localised issues. The design access statement references the site is in Macclesfield within its conclusion. The proposals do not provide details of any external amenity space, and proposals are considered overdevelopment of the site. That, I'm afraid, whilst I am sympathetic to the need to have supported accommodation, I'm not.
No.
From the information I could glean from the application, I couldn't demonstrate a positive development.
No, I don't agree with that.
I think it's flats at the minute above, isn't it, or studios, whatever they were called.
Yeah.
There's offices below.
That's it.
Yeah.
Security
It was a
place.
security company,
So that's an objection on those grounds.
Yeah.
Those are my observations.
Colleagues have got any?
No, I don't agree with
Are
that.
you happy with that, Madeline?
Yeah.
It's below standards
I am,
every
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Got me scale ruler now, so
Yeah.
I'm absolutely certain of these things.
Was that after a Mavis?
And
Yes.
Yeah, it
That's
was.
what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
Yes.
is it all right, Alex? I'm mindful of the time.
Yeah.
We can spend time on those at more. Right, this is 233698. Change of use from a mixed use DI childcare and residential to just residential use only in a single dwelling.
Yes.
So that's at the
It's returned to its original purpose within a residential setting, and no material changes to the actual layout or fascia. So I would suggest it's not a challenge. That
No, it's not.
no comment.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you. Next one then. 3755.
Yeah.
Which is a single story rear extension to lower ground floor to provide Killarney flat with internal alterations. Cedar House.
At your discretion, Chair, I'm happy to show the piece of paper, but realistically it's in scale development of a site. There's no risk that it's appropriate, but the only thing I would suggest is, where are we? Single story rear extension. I have an issue with the principle of the proposals. I've advised that should planning consent be given, there should be such enforceable conditions for the protection of the amenity of neighbouring properties to ensure there is no fundamental subdivision of the property such that it remains substantively a single dwelling with no aspects otherwise sublet or commercially available for rent.
Which is what we standard, don't we?
So it
No,
is
it is the house.
proposing that this is a sort of lower ground floor because it's on a bit of an incline and it dips away. So we're proposing this lower ground floor aspect, which might have been a bit of a basement in the past or something. It has got, still loading, I'm sorry, I'll show you some accommodation already there. An extension out with one of those sort of orangey roof things there. And making it a single bed, granny flat, that's the intention. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Sustainable living, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not protruding a long way into anyone's garden. It's not. It's a single story. It's quite low down on the incline, so it's not causing any height issues. It's just the risk of subdivision it becoming an Airbnb or a separate flat, and that can impact the neighbours.
So
What I've read out has been noted.
subject to just putting that with no.
Yeah.
I was just no objection in principle as long as.
However,
Yeah, that's not I agree with that.
yeah, is that
Yeah.
okay, colleagues?
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
Next one, which we have revisited and revisited, and then we're going again. 224693. Roof extension to add one additional floor, new roof, reclad building, and change of use to residential, 30 High Street. we've made comment twice, I think.
Yeah.
And there's not a great deal improved.
I would agree with you. I couldn't see any significant changes. There were
It's
a
still
little bit of
outside space, there's still no parking.
Yeah. If it helps with the timing check, I can read out my notes if that helps.
That's up to the committee, yeah, please.
I would suggest the objection can be sustained due to overbuild on the site demonstrated by apartments 3, 4 and 5 not meeting technical minimum housing standard, showing gross internal area of 38 metres square, not 50 metres square as is required. Overbuild on the site demonstrated by apartment 2 for the same reasons. Lack of external amenity space for residents and ground for the ground and first floor levels. There are small balcony areas for the second floor level. Lack of sustainable energy production, e.g. solar electricity generation, and lack of net biodiversity gain. We consider the fact that they're putting on 5 units, that there should be some positive gain. And lack of parking, which is against Cheshire's planning policy. Although we consider it might be in a sustainable location, there are 5 units there, and the expectation of 0 cars is unsustainable.
Yeah.
I note from the highways that they trotted out the usual line. They they don't need to have a car, and they're not far from, the station. And I think to myself sometimes, we're trying to attract a cross section of people to live in Crewe, in the town area. And if you're looking at that, you're looking at professionals, you're looking at people in all sorts of jobs. Some will have cars, and some will have to have cars. The nature of the job.
That's right.
Yes.
And if you wish to get them to come to Crewe, then you have to supply them with a car park. No good saying, well, there's one at a multi-storey car park. It's only 385 yards away or metres away. It annoys me intensely that they always say no objections, no objections, no objection highways, and yet they should be creating spaces. If they can't get cars parked on the space, which is basically a car park now, next to it, isn't it, where that is, then there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Because why do we waste this time? We should look at that and say, yeah, that's fine, but we want to make it attractive enough for anybody to look at and say, I'm going to move in there.
Yeah.
Because it's got that.
That's right.
It's all right say there's a bus stop at the end of the road. Yeah, that's fine. Well, don't go on a bus on a Sunday because there's no buses.
That's right.
So all I'm saying is yeah, but it's again, it's an easy way out instead of actually taking it by the scruff of the neck and saying, we're going to have to sort something out here.
There are also localised issues along High Street because it's constantly full of illegal parking, and bins, the big commercial bins are now blocking the pavement.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Continually blocking the pavement by that shop, and continually further down some silver and black bins. And they come from the other side of the road.
Reported it. Probably.
So it's just an observation. Sorry, Colin, I do feel sometimes about that it's all right saying that it's buses and all that. No, we want, people they might work for a living and need the car.
Well, what's the do? You've got
Can't all go on a bike,
You get a distinct impression with these. I mean, this is a stock answer from highways, and that they're just not interested. They're just not interested. That's how it looks to me.
I couldn't put it better myself.
I don't think you want to make problems for themselves through the highways.
So maybe we're here representing, trying to get a mix out there and improve as well. Marley, would you like to tell us some more?
To be fair to highways officers, they would be doing us all a service if they did persuade people that they ought to walk to buy somewhere where they can walk to work or walk to wherever they need to be and not have so many cars, because it would benefit everybody if we didn't have so many cars, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the view that I wouldn't take myself, but anyway, let's not get across this action. Are you happy to submit what Peter said? Which is basically...
It was an objection, wasn't it?
It was an objection,
Yeah.
I would recommend to you.
No, thank you.
Sustained objection because you objected in the past.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
23, 37, 64, proposed garage conversion.
It's a muse of modern houses. It's a front garage door integral to the building. They want to make another bedroom on the ground floor. I saw no significant risk to that, and I imagine they won't be the first or the last to do it.
Yeah, very straightforward.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Right, no
yeah,
comment.
no, it's fine.
23, 35, 42, certificate of lawful proposed use development, 73 Bedford Street. And this application is submitted by the same company that has submitted it in 1 Lawton Street. And if you look at, if you could just look Pete, at the
Yeah, on it.
so that in this case they want to make basically into a terraced house into a HMO, with again no parking. But it's the same company or whatever.
They also want to make a home office for this the property of multiple occupation in the garden with plumbing for a toilet. I would suggest that's a development risk, as it may well be used for a residential and totally inappropriate residential accommodation, overnight accommodation. Sorry, I'll have to whiz these around a bit.
Would you say Chair, I agree that this somehow reminds me of a property in Stonebridge Road. I forget the exact address, but you know the one I mean.
Yeah, it's just that it's and of course in that particular area there's lots of HMOs.
Yeah.
Is it because it's fairly small that it, you know, the restrictions on HMOs in that area do they not apply to this then?
Well,
the legislation
if
that
that
was brought in about HMOs.
it covers, doesn't it, the area, the section.
Yeah, the Article 4 directive. Yeah.
It covers that.
Do you want me to read out what I've noted? Is that helpful?
Yes.
All loads
Because
of
Is that street included in Article 4?
Yeah, there is Article 4 coming in. I would suggest that the proposals are overdevelopment of the sites. It's proposed units do not meet technical housing standards. There's some measurements in there. Proposed office building will potentially be used as additional overnight accommodation, will be unsustainable and have negative impact on the neighbouring property's amenity. The area is subject to an Article 4 directive to reduce the impact of HMOs on the neighbourhood, and the proposed development would not be in line with the intent of the Article 4 directive. No provision shown for sustainable waste storage, no provision shown for secure cycle storage. I think that's where I got to on that. So I'm suggesting it's overdevelopment. What have we got here? Existing, that's got to be proposed, I apologise. There we go. I've got the same thing up here. So I put the same thing above it. Right, sorry. So the proposals, it will spin in a second. There we go. Are entering to two flats, effectively studio flats. Here, they are providing for a central office for whatever support there is in this proposed accommodation. A studio flat here and a studio flat to the rear. They're all below 20 square metres accommodation. The standard is 36, I think. So they're quite a long way below. And again, you go up the stairs to another studio flat, another studio flat here. There is indicated emergency egress across the flat roof here. There's no elevation showing a ladder or anything. And the site plan. just shows where they're planning to put the home office, which might be for the support that's intended, but it doesn't provide for us, you know, a definite use, and it's down at the end here. Could be used potentially in the future, maybe not by the applicant, as once plumbed in and powered, informal overnight accommodation.
Oh, that's an objection then. Is that okay, colleagues?
Yeah.
Can you just flash up because there's that alleyway, there's the alleyway that goes through to Catherine Street. See on a few houses down, 75, 79. Going up, go to the left. Go to the left. Just left of that, that's it. You see there, there's an alleyway.
Oh, sorry, that alleyway there.
Yeah. And then the other one, and that one at the top is behind Catherine Street, and that's an area where there's all sorts of fly tipping goes on. Could you just show us the objection from 101 Bedford Street? It's just at the top there, just to see, because that's something
They're
that's quite
saying
nearby.
there's too many HMOs already in fly tipping and no parking. Match days.
Yeah.
Issue with us.
Hence the Article 4, etc.
Okay.
Okay with that?
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Right. Next one then. 3725. Use of existing building as a restaurant / coffee shop and roof extension with pergola. 14 Queensway. This is the old J&D.
JD Sports.
JD Sports. Another welcome investment in the town centre.
Yes, absolutely.
Or not, as the case may be. Up to the committee, guys.
I'll come up in a sec. Yeah, JD Sports overlooking Queensway and future real arcade provision as it will be.
That's amazing, that does. I saw that.
Isn't it?
I saw that.
It's
Very nice.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
That's the JD unit here.
Yeah, I went to look at it.
And they're also proposing a downstairs family arcade.
Yeah.
So they're not proposing an 18 over gambling arcade.
It's not that.
It's more computer games and like a cafe sort of style aspect to that, and then a bit more of a formal dining across the other floors. And a function room in the middle, it appeared by the layout, but it just showed better, so I assume function room. I think it did say function room. And so it's just a development of some ambition and quality.
Is there alcohol on premises?
Well, that's licensing, so thankfully not for us to worry about. I imagine they'll be served. They would seek a license.
There is a bubble bar.
Oh, well.
That's not
Bubble
alcohol,
bar.
is it? It's sort
I
of
prefer a pint of lager.
funny tea.
Oh, it's a bubble.
Hooker.
It's bottled tea, isn't it? Not the
Oh, smoking the pipes.
No, I think it's that
No.
bottled tea.
It's bubble tea, it's some fancy
Yeah.
thing.
It's quite harmless.
Oh,
Not the
right.
pipes.
Okay then.
We're well behind the time.
Okay, colleagues, as much as I'd like to discuss
Yeah, I have heard of it.
do we support this application? Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome and support it.
Okay, well that closes section 5. So we'll open up at number 6. We've done the first one. So the next one is, hopefully not too long on this, it's 233287, which is a variation conditions of an existing permission McDonald's restaurant at the West Street. And it's a single fast story with included internal illuminated advertisements.
Yes.
Any comment?
I don't have any comments. It's a McDonald's facility, and it looks like a McDonald's facility, and we delivered exactly as they do, that sort of thing. It's in a location that's received planning application for it before and successfully. I don't buy McDonald's myself, but
Does anyone want to contribute anything, Marlon?
No.
The only thing I don't
Fine.
understand is why do you shut the one that you had in the town centre and then go and build it 500, 700 yards away?
no.
So we move on then?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is one 233824. Demolition of existing garage and the creation of a new build 7-room HMO. We have commented on an application on that site.
Yeah, which was declined.
Yeah, it was declined, yeah.
And this is now a new application proposal. They have I imagine sought to address some of the issues in the last application. Whilst that all loads, Chair, if it's okay with you, I'll read out my observations.
Yeah, no, the colleagues who've looked at it, do us too.
The provision of an Article 4 directive demonstrates the negative impact of provision of HMOs and unsustainable accommodation type. It's not an area of Article 4 that on Mitchell New Road. However, I think there's a case to make for there a negative impact. The proposals represent overdevelopment of the site, indicating that potential occupancy could reasonably be expected to be around 14 individuals. That the proposals will adversely impact on the immediate neighbouring properties due to the noise and disturbance. That the proposals do not meet planning policy in terms of lack of off-street parking provision. The provision of this style of accommodation in this setting is not in keeping with the traditional residential nature of the area.
Colleagues, anyone want to build on that or detract from that?
So that
I've had one comment about it from a resident that lives there. He doesn't want it bought. Did you object the first time round? He said no. I says, well, if you don't object it, you better object. Basically said.
We've objected last time because it was access to the site and all sorts. It was a garage, wasn't it, Tommy?
Yes,
Lester's
that's
garage.
Yeah, there wasn't enough parking, we objected, didn't we?
yeah.
Are they going to be the same access, or have they made it bigger? Because
No, the access is saying it's going straight onto Minchell. Where is it? Minchell New Road, yeah. Straight onto Minchell New Road. Oh, where's the site plan you're going?
because we said that,
Right, so that's Minchell New Road there,
Yeah.
and that's the frontage. Bin storage here, and you access the property that way, presumably. It does show a door into the kitchen area as well, which was laid out that way, with two bedroom lounges, bed seats on the ground floor, and then on the first floor another 4 up there, and then up on the second floor there's another bed sit there. So it's 7 units potentially with a double bed in each, because the rooms are all of a scale where that would be appropriate. And so it's an HMO, it's long and short of it, and I think is a policy this committee's generally been against HMOs as an unsustainable accommodation type.
Yeah.
And in that particular location, in an area of traditional residential accommodation, it's unsustainable in that context.
I think it's going to be a lot taller than the surrounding houses, because you've got 2, 4, 6, 7 detached houses to one side of it, and then you've got some ex-council housing stock to the other side of it. And from what I can gather, that's going to be a lot taller than its surrounding buildings. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb.
It's designed as a two-storey additional building, but they're using the loft area as the second floor bedroom. Which slowly comes up there.
So you're happy for submit an objection on the grounds? That
Yeah.
Peter,
Yeah.
thank you.
Definitely.
So, item 7 then is to no responses submitted under the delegation.
There
Last meeting, we've had any. No. So item 8 then, to note or consider correspondence, consultations, etc. 8.1 is Cheshire East parking charges consultation. Is that encouraging us to?
I've got some observations on it as a committee if you want to make a formal response. I don't know if you've prepped and ready for that. The Cheshire East parking charges, the bus station as is being developed and will be ready in the first part of next year. The new car park at the bus station is not listed, and as such it is unclear if that will be given a sustainable parking charge structure. Sandbach Large Common has not been listed, so therefore remain free to use. Additionally, Sandbach car parks are not being set levies at the higher rate as seen in other towns, including Crewe. Crewe is the most economically and socially deprived town in the borough, and as such consideration should be given to the accessibility of fees. A linear approach does not recognise the impact of inequalities on the town and will have a disproportionate negative impact on the residents of Crewe in favour of more advantaged areas of the borough. Parking charges that are perceived as a barrier to access use will negatively impact on the value of regenerative projects being carried and delivered by Cheshire East Council, and as such undermine the potential value of regeneration in Crewe. Sandbach centrally located car parks at Brookhouse Road, Chapel Street, Westfields, price lower than Crewe centrally located car parks, therefore not demonstrating parity and further disadvantaging communities with the highest level of deprivation in the borough.
Okay. Noting Marilyn is withheld comments for reasons. Do you wish to submit that? Want any changes?
I'm not altogether sure about the sandbox comments.
I feel that it reflects a strongly held view in the community that I have heard and witnessed several times. So I understand your point. Are we picking on another town? I think is a little bit, you know, a little bit cold. But I'm just representing what I'm being given.
I think we should be reflecting the comments of the people that live in the town. They're saying that why should we have increased parking places when other people park for free in other towns? No, there should be a straight across the board parking charge for Cheshire East.
Well, I'd like to just point out, I'm going to send in, I forget what the deadline is, it's not too
1st of November, then.
Yeah, I'm going to send in some individual comments anyway, which will basically comment about one or two things in Crewe. I'm not going to go into them now, but I think there's one observation that people should note under these proposals, and that is under the proposals, I'm not saying I support them, but under those proposals, the only town that plainly retains any number of free car parks is Crewe. And then there's the commons in Sandbach will remain free, but that's the other issues there because of the next to the library and some ancient articles or something. Some ancient reason for those that's not been chargeable. But Crewe will still have about 6 or 7 free car parks actually, and there are quite a few, several in Crewe South. I mean, I do have a quarrel with a couple of, if they were going to pick a couple of car parks to convert, and they have picked 2 very small car parks, 3 car parks, nonsense ones, where there were 6 or 8 spaces each, off Nantwich Road. Which are short stay shoppers' car parks. People go to the chip shop, that sort of thing, suggesting that they become pay and display, and they were kept as free. I mean, if they were going to do, if the council were going to do something, there are other options they could look at, and I shall suggest some, like, for example, certain free car parks would be better as residence car parks. There are 1 or 2 areas where the free car parks are only used by commuters. So that abstracts, that takes income away from our own pay and display quite near Crewe Station. It's a nonsense, isn't it? But if those were available for rent by residents or some such, there could well be some interest there. That would mean that they would have there'd be some extra income from that conceivably, and people who use the streets and the free car parks would have to pay. So there'd be a net benefit in revenue for the council from that. But anyway, I'll send in my own comments along those lines. I'm quite happy to share them with everybody else.
But from our perspective as town councillors, we should just, we object to the fact that there are other areas that have been free for years and it's going to go up, that's by the by. It's that we've paid above the odds in Crewe in the town centre car parks, which has had a detrimental effect on us, as opposed to the trading, the business that's staying around here, the Grand Junction, which is free, and they've gone up and up. All the time, I understand they're going across the Priest, but equally people who live in Sandbach have marched at weekend to say about their car parks being paid and it's unfair. Well, it's been unfair for us for years. So I'm fully in square with what Peter said there, that we should object to it on those grounds, and we are the most socially deprived.
Yeah, I get that. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I didn't understand why we're referring to Sandbach at all. Are we just saying, well, it's all very well, we've had free car parking, bad luck, you have to pay like the rest of us? Is that what we're saying?
No, I'm saying I went down the list of who's paying what.
Yes.
Macclesfield's paying the most.
Yes.
and then it's Crewe and Congleton and a number of other towns paying similar amounts, and then Sandbach is actually still going to be paying less on the sites they're going to be charged for.
Hence the sort of the object, sort of comment. Okay.
I can't say as I've gone through every town. I haven't done Knutsford and Wilmslow, I'll be honest, but I went through the major towns, and that's where we're at.
Yeah. But I think it's worth us noting, even if we don't put the comment in, that Crewe will still have more free car parks under those proposals than any other town. In fact, the only
I
other
didn't
three
know where
will
any
be.
free.
They're only tiny
I was
ones.
going to say, I didn't know where
No, they're
any free.
not.
No.
There's about 6 or 8 of them.
We've only got
Name
5 minutes.
Right, anyway, we've got to conclude. We've got to spend. The way forward then is to remove the sandbag bin.
Well, I agree with Pete to keep Sandbach in, because at the end of the day we're under Cheshire East, so really we should be looked at, well, why should theirs be different to ours? I agree with that.
I think it should stay in person.
I think it should stay in.
Okay.
I do.
Should be taken.
I think it
Let's
should
have a
stay
vote on
in.
it then.
Yeah, I think it should stay in, because it's comparing.
Come on, we don't want to be...
Yeah.
So we have a vote on it.
Yeah.
If the debate's going to be curtailed, I shall abstain.
That's all right, well, let's have a vote now. You're proposing, you second. All those in favour?
Okay.
Against? Abstention? No, thank you. We'll move on. 8.2, proposed change to a footpath.
Yeah, it's not. You've had it in front of you. It's a very small change on Henry Street, I think, is it? Yeah, on the field south of Henry Street, and it's just taking. They've cut the corner. Is the long and short of it. So they're just taking that corner cut out. It's a minor change. I have no issues with it. I've not seen any issues with it.
Okay. I don't see any issues with it myself.
Is that okay? Move on.
Yeah.
8 point, we've done those two. So it's 8.5. Correspondence received regarding the street name suggestion.
Yeah, I circulated to you. A resident has come up with some proposed street names and the reasoning behind those proposed street names, and I said I will share them with the committee on the principle that we get asked about street names from time to time, and whether you would want to include these street names in consideration in the future.
Which area are we talking about?
Well, there's no like having a bank of these, it's almost having a bank of proposals and the reasoning why for reference in the future. So realistically, it's if we were to get a street name request, we could refer back to this list and see is it appropriate to then recommend these onto them. That's because sometimes we get them, we're not entirely sure what to say. Is it worth having some suggestions with evidence? You don't have to agree to them. If someone went to the effort of doing it, I thought it's a positive piece of engagement, and at the point at which the street name opportunity comes forward, you can look at the list and go, is that the one for us?
Right, does anyone, are we happy to just put them on the list?
Yeah.
And if appropriate, use them.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, we've got a few minutes, so item 9 then, completion of works at the Lyceum Square.
Yes, the Lyceum Square, the development there has gone through. It had planning approval and is very close to completion. We as a council are committed to support this funding, which we give at the end of the project. And we are aware of it, and there are considerations associated relating to its treatment at the junction of Hill Street and Heath Street at Lyceum Square. And at the point at which the Chair has made representation to the officers to say it's concerned about the scale of this treatment, they replied saying we're awaiting materials to correct it, and so I would suggest at that point, once they say they've corrected it, we can make more formal representation. At this time, it seems beyond the scale of the planning application.
So that's really...
It's in abeyance until that, because you've already taken action, they've responded, and so we're waiting for them to prove that the delivered materials corrected.
Okay then, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
So item 10 then, it's no correspondence associated with the planning enforcement 43A High Street.
Yeah, that's the car wash on the corner of High Street and Market Street. Around the corner, it's installed a large metal and canvas canopy permanent structure without planning consent. There were planning enforcement have contacted them. They've been informed that the owner is out of the country. They've extended the deadline, and they have emailed me to say that although I'll read it actually because it's worrying. Given that the owner appears to be out of the country until 20th of October, additional time will be allowed for submission. Should an application not be submitted by then, end of November, consideration will be given to enforcement action. And this is what bothers me. However, should such action not be considered to be expedient, the case will be closed. So, yeah, effectively they're saying they're just not going to do anything. And you can instruct me to, but I'm going to do it anyway. I've been making representations to them to say that that's not adequate, but I'll have to wait now till November to say, has an application been submitted, what's your action? If it's nothing, then obviously I'll submit a formal complaint. Failure to fulfil obligations.
I mean, I'm shocked that you'd say, we're not going to do anything.
It's the second
Say
it's
absolutely just,
That's
quietly, oh, it's only crew after all.
That's unbelievable.
Obviously, I agree.
So I'm quite happy to
Well,
say publicly, I'm shocked
Why
at
are
such a
we-
response.
It may require planning permission, obviously, if they're talking about it in this way, it obviously does, but what's the problem with the canopy?
It's been erected without planning consent, so it
Is it
requires
ugly?
planning.
Is it causing obstruction? Is it upsetting other local people, or is it protecting the staff who are out there working in all weathers on a very low wage, probably?
Well,
Have we
potentially.
got better things to be doing?
Yeah, well, if that's up to you,
without time?
I would suggest it doesn't take me very long.
Okay.
I would suggest that we should be consistent, and if we see any application, anything that's gone on without planning permission, we should send that in to the council, irrespective of what that is. Now I understand your sentiments there, and I can quite agree. But equally, should they have done it if they've been at somebody's house and you've done it, someone and say, hey, they've just built it down the bottom of the yard, you would object. So I think we have to have a consistency.
Consistent,
I mean, at the end of the day, they should have known that we should apply for planning permission.
It is 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
and so it's the last item, which is 11. To note the proposed date of the next meeting is the 20th of November at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience tonight.
Thank you.
So